What is up, guys?
Yo, what's up?
We are back.
Yeah, where have you been, Jillian?
Where have you been? Y'all, we were so proud of ourselves that we pre-recorded a podcast for when we were on vacation.
Yeah.
And then we came back and we're like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, I know.
What happened? Travel, work travel. Second thing, this pollen right now is not the same pollen I've been dealing with for the last 42 years of my life. We've been like up and down, like getting our butts kicked with allergies, and something we'll jump into in a later podcast. We just weren't disciplined. Like, we could make all the excuses in the world, but can we just own that one? Oh, you're bucking it.
I am a little bit because, like, yo, dude, we were sick. Unless you wanted the podcast to sound like sexy jazz singers, like that's what we sounded like.
But we were. Our last podcast was spring break, the week of spring break.
Yeah.
So it has been over a month since we filmed a podcast. So you can sit there and honestly say that in the last month there was not one day that we could have filmed a podcast.
We could have.
So just own it.
I will.
Just own it.
I will eventually.
Just swallow that pride and own it.
Just not today.
But we are back. Missed you guys. I got feedback the other day. My mom was like, "Hey, so and so listens to your podcast and really like enjoys your banter," and was like, "What's going on? Where are they at?" And that like felt good. I was like, "Oh, it's not just like our family and friends listening. It's like going beyond that, which is kind of cool."
That is cool.
But we. Again, Mike's been traveling a lot for work. I was out in California for work. You were in Arizona,
Connecticut.
Yeah. We were fighting. That's the Ring doorbell. Amateur. You're such. We don't film a podcast in like a month, and Mike forgot to silence his food. Hold on, let me make sure mine's silenced.
Yeah, before you talk all that crap.
I'm gonna pop off real quick. Nope, I was on silent mode. Inhaling copious amounts of Zyzal and Dayquil. Chase had his prom.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, Chase had his prom.
Chase is our oldest.
Yes.
In case you're tuning in for the first time.
I cried all week. But then the day of, I was pretty good. I was choking it down. Mike's mom was waterworks, which she normally is not. I'm like, Dee, what is going on with you?
She's a typical New Yorker. They
we cry in the shower like normal people.
You can't tell the tears between the water.
Yeah. And so we had that. We had birthday parties. It's been
busy.
A lot.
Full.
I don't
Mother's
Day.
Busy.
No, it's been full. Yeah. I like that. I like that switch there. Yeah. But we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
And I think today's topic is perfect because parts of this conversation could be considered smallness.
Wow.
I'm just going to put you right on the couch.
Thanks, man.
Did you call me ma'am?
I said thanks, man.
Oh, I was going to say, I was about to jump across this table at you. Bro. Hunter, I had to drop him off after a doctor's appointment yesterday, and he was like, school's going to let out, and all these kids are going to come out, and you better hurry up and get out of here. And I'm like, all right, we'll get out of my car. And I got stuck in it, and I texted him, and I'm like, bro, this is crazy. And he just started laughing. He's like, I told you. But as much as they're guilty of calling us bro, we call them bro too. Yeah.
We're old.
Yeah. All right. Never mind. Okay. Give us our little intro here.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about small-mindedness because of basically just the experiences that we have. You and I are both visionary people. We see more than what's in front of us. And at times we have found ourselves trying to negotiate with small-minded people, find ourselves trying to change their minds, find themselves like having to argue with small-mindedness. And so I believe wholeheartedly that there are people listening that you do have big dreams, you do have aspirations, but sometimes whether it's your own small-mindedness or the small-mindedness of the people around you, we run into this limitation, right? And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. And so when we experience it a lot, especially in the paradigm of church, I know this ain't a church podcast, but with church, church is family, church is community, and those are very intimate words, right? And I don't believe that having big dreams and family are mutually exclusive. I think we're very family oriented.
Yes,
but that shouldn't also, like, people think it's either or, right?
Yeah,
you're either about success. Well, actually, when we when we, I don't know if you know our story, we've adopted some churches along the way after planting Fervent Church in 2012. And one of the churches that we planted, we had this dinner with one of the previous pastors, and the wife of the pastor said, well, you know, she made a comparison between North Jersey and South Jersey.
She ignored Central.
She ignored because it doesn't exist.
Let's start that debate.
Central Jersey doesn't exist. And she said North Jersey is about success, and then South Jersey, and that's where we reside in South Jersey, is about family.
And we
my head
when
exploded.
She said that, I think physically my jaw dropped, and I had to pick it up real quick because I'm trying to be respectful. I'm in someone else's home, but I'm also I can't believe she just said that.
Right.
Never mind the fact Mike lived in North Jersey for many years.
Hoboken, what's up?
I lived in a section of Central Jersey for
Doesn't
many years that some people may consider North Jersey.
Yeah.
So number one, you're not even recognizing your audience, and number two, what a small-minded thing to say.
Not only that, number two, Jersey ain't that big.
No.
Literally.
And I have people, I know people in South Jersey that would be offended by that. And I know a lot of people in North Jersey would be like, oh, I don't care about my family because I live in North Jersey and I care about success. Maybe my success stems because I care for my family.
Right.
But it's that either or that lends itself to small-mindedness so much.
Yep. Binary thinking is a symptom of small-mindedness.
Yes. And it's the bane of my existence. Are you this or are you that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's my answer to all of it.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Are you this or are you that?
And you watch people's head explode no, you didn't answer the question.
Right. And we have found the hard way. We have learned the hard way that if you're a person who aspires to be a leader, if you accommodate smallness, okay? If you accommodate smallness, you can't complain when you want to dream big and people won't allow you to.
Yeah.
Right? So the part that I really want to dive into today is how we have learned the hard way when we accommodate that smallness, it always bites us in the butt. Always bites us in the butt. And so, but we first have to understand smallness, right? And understand where it comes from. So in your experience, just use your own words here. Where do you think small-mindedness comes from?
It comes from a couple places. One example of small-mindedness with our kids that I'd like to share. Hunter started playing football his freshman year of high school. Never played before. Got this itch that he wanted to go out for football. And after the first day of practice, I'm like, he ain't waking up tomorrow and going back. And he did. And he kept on impressing me. So he's done 2 years of football now, and he's learning and he's growing. He's not first string, but he's building his confidence and all that. And at one point I said to him, have you thought about playing college and football? Or about playing football in college? And he was like, no, I could never play football in college. And I was like, well, why not? And he's like, because I just couldn't. And I was like, well, with that attitude, you can't. But what would it look like if you trained really hard? And I'm not talking about a D1 school, but even playing on a club football team in college. And he's like, I just never thought of that. And I think it's that small-mindedness. It's the lack of belief in yourself a lot of times, that you don't see bigger things for yourself. It's also fear because along with that, playing football in college, that means you got to be disciplined. That means you got to work hard. That means you got to do well in school. That means you got to get your sleep. That means all these things, which some people fear and discomfort will keep them from that.
Right.
So I think there's many, many layers to what causes small-mindedness. I think one of the larger ones is probably fear or lack of identity.
Fear or lack of identity. Ain't that the truth? Yeah. I think that when we talk about small-mindedness, the results of that, and I agree with everything you just said, the causes of it is fear, it's ignorance, it's insecurity, but it causes you to resist new ideas. Yeah. It causes you to be closed-minded. And that's the hard part about when you put a small-minded person with a dream or a visionary, that small-minded person is always going to resist those ideas because of their lack of exposure. And I think, we say fear, but let me put some feet on that. I think it's fear of leaving your comfort zone. Yeah. Right? It's 100%. They created this small world for a reason. and you could fill in the blank what that reason is, but you're longing to make sure that you stay stable in your comfort zone. And so that leads you to be small-minded. That leads you to limit your growth, limit new relationships.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I watch people just not want to be friends with certain people or network, do anything like that because of their small-mindedness. I think their own personal development gets limited because of small-mindedness. Because, again, you want to reach new levels. With new levels comes with new ideas. And so you're new idea resistant.
Yeah.
And that's the part that, for me as a dreamer, frustrates me.
Yeah.
But I also know you can't be a jerk with small-minded people, right?
It would be fun if you could. But.
Right. But so I'm trying to understand them more in hopes to inspire them to pull them out, right? There's a leadership psychology term, and I found that when I remember that terminology and I remember that the force of that plays behind the scenes, it helps me understand better.
All right, explain that.
So confirmation bias,
I don't know what it is either.
Is like, so imagine if I drew two circles. So one circle, it's facts and evidence, right? And then the other circle is your beliefs. If you have those circles overlap, okay, what that creates is that overlap is the evidence of my beliefs. Okay, so a person who is a dreamer, we look at facts and experiences and allow those facts and experiences sometimes to trump our beliefs, right? So, because that's growth, right? Because when you just stay locked down on your beliefs, right, you can't grow.
Yeah.
So if I always believe that, there's a Santa Claus, right? At a certain point in my life, I
cover your kids' ears.
Cover your kids' ears, right? If I believe that there's a Santa Claus between the age of 1 to 6, when did you find out there wasn't a Santa Claus?
I don't know, but I told all my siblings when I was like in 4th or 5th grade.
You horrible person. So you ruined it for your younger siblings. Unbelievable. It's
the older sister's job.
So from 1 to 6 or 1 to 7, right? I had that belief.
Yeah.
So if I have a confirmation bias, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reject everything that's outside of my beliefs, even though I see facts and evidence. Right?
Okay.
So you and I, we're not. When I say dreamers and visionaries, we don't live in a fantasy, right? We don't make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
We see evidence and we start putting things together. It's like, this is what it could be. But if we always limit the possibility of new things based on only our previous experience, you're always going to be limited.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I think creates small-mindedness. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'd love another example.
No, you don't like the Santa Claus example?
But I feel like you didn't finish it out.
Yeah, so now when I see, I saw that mom and dad were wrapping the gifts. I saw that my dad is the one that ate the cookies, right? I hope our nephews aren't listening to this episode.
I know. I'll tell Chelsea.
Right.
My cute side tangent, my nephew Jackson, we'll shout him out on another episode because she won't be able to play this in front of them. She was listening in the car one day. He goes, "Is that Aunt Jill and Uncle Mikey?" And she was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "But where are they?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, they recorded it." He goes, "Yeah, but where are they?" And now he looks forward to hearing our podcast because he likes to hear our voices. But this one is not Jackson approved.
I just ruined it. For them, just like you ruined it for Chelsea. But forget the Santa Claus example. Let's take the example of Hunter. He had a confirmation bias. I'm not the best football player. That's my experience on the team. So then, even if I've seen other people go from limited play in high school, but then eventually playing in college, even though we could give him a list of those individuals that had that story, because of his confirmation bias, he's limited to only the knowledge of his experience, not the knowledge of what exists in the world.
Yeah.
So that creates that confirmation bias.
Gotcha.
So, in people's comforts, now let's bring it back to the church world. We say their confirmation bias is this: I've only felt safe in a small church. I've only felt safe in a traditional church. I've only felt safe when the pastor wears suit and tie. I've only felt safe when the church only plays hymns. You see what I'm saying? So they limit their experiences on that, and you can find safety in those things. I'm not saying those things are wrong.
Yeah.
What I'm just saying, you don't dare to explore outside of that world because of your confirmation bias.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, a portion of why small-mindedness exists, because of this confirmation bias that we created based on only our beliefs and experiences.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
But in that, like, we both try to listen to small-minded people, right? So we extend that empathy and say, okay, I hear what you're saying, that kind of stuff. But here's what I have found. And again, I've screwed up in this area enough to pretty much gain a lot of confidence in what I'm about to say. I will be hospitable still, because I don't want to be a jerk. I will be hospitable towards small-minded people, but they can't have permanent residence here, right?
Yeah.
It's like you could visit, but you ain't moving in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, because we're called to love people, we're called to be nice to people, be kind, and all this other thing. So I don't want to be rude, but again, if I continue to accommodate that small-mindedness, we're always gonna, like, you know, the frustrations we have when we try to say, hey guys, we're gonna do this. And then, well, and they don't even have substantial reasoning.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like they're uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
And so if I'm always limited by your discomfort, I'm going to go insane. And we just can't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We just can't do that.
Yeah.
And so we got to allow big to win. So we've said a couple things like we learned along the way in regards to like team and that kind of stuff. So explain some of the things we learned about smallness and making sure that we protect ourselves and create an environment where big can live.
Well, from team aspect, like staff aspect, I think you need to be really clear up front the vision for your organization and like the way you're planning on approaching that, and like the do's and the don'ts, you know what I mean? Like we're going to do whatever it takes without like being horrible to people, to reach this goal for our organization. That sounds bad, but I hope it's understood what I mean. Like you need to express like, this is the culture of our organization. This is the way we work, and this is what we don't do.
Right.
Because
it's like disappoint them from the beginning.
Yes. Because, and I feel like we've always been very upfront with who we are, what our goal is, what our vision is, but somehow that gets lost in translation. And I think it's been because we've accommodated that dysfunction and small-mindedness. So that person thinks, oh, well, they don't really mean that because they're allowing this to happen. So you need to be really like strong in your convictions. And go along with that. That's what I'd say. But like, I want to talk to the person who they don't lead a team. They don't lead an organization. They have nothing to do with church. How would you help? What are some like tips that you would get, examples of like situations that they might run into, and tips on how to like be big and not be held back by people's smallness? Yep.
I would say first and foremost, just to be aware of your own fears. Be aware of your fears and insecurities. At least like name it. One of the powerful things about insecurity is that the minute you confess your insecurity is the minute you take a step towards confidence. I think when people are truly insecure, people won't even tell you that they're insecure. You know what I mean? So I think getting to the place where you have the boldness to admit, hey, I'm insecure in this area. I'm afraid of this. Once you start confessing that, then you start it starts losing its power a little bit, so that you could start working towards overcoming it. So be aware of that. Second thing I think would be to pay attention to where you want to go, and ask yourself the question, what will it take to get there? And what is it that I'm not willing to do to get there? And to understand those two lists, and to see, are these conflicting at all? Right? I need to do this, but I'm not willing to do this, and they're conflicting. One has to win if I really want to achieve my goal. A lot of people think they could just wish their way into achieving a goal, and so you just have to be aware of that. You have to be aware of those conflicting ideas, and then to start one little bite at a time, right? Don't get overwhelmed, but start doing, hey, I'm going to do something I don't want to do. Start practicing just stepping your toe out of your comfort zone. Little by little. Just start practicing. Okay, I'm afraid to talk to someone. I'm afraid to ask this person their name and get their number, or just something to just slowly start stepping out of your comfort zone. And I would actually say small-mindedness comes from lack of exposure. So start exposing yourself little by little to the things that you're afraid of, and start creating that what I would say like rejection immunity, right?
Yeah.
Like when we were young, they don't do it now too much, but they're like, no, let their kids play in the dirt. Right. That's how they get their immunity up and that kind of stuff. So like, let yourself play in the dirt a little bit. Get that, and you're gonna be rejected. You're going to fail. Develop your rejection and failure immunity. Like, it's just a part of success.
I also would like to add in though. See more for yourself and don't be ashamed of that. Because we were talking with someone recently who has like, just, you can see in this person like they're meant to be in the city.
Yeah.
Like it's just their vibe. They thrive there. They're built for that. And there are people like within their family that want to keep them back. They want to hold them back, and they don't want him to go out and do what is so obviously written all over him he's meant to do, but it's more comfortable for them to hold him back. And speak life into people like that. Like we said to them, like, you have a vision for your life, go after it. Because if you're constantly being held back by people and you allow them to, because you don't want to ruffle feathers and you want them to keep their comfort, you're going to regret that when you come around at the end of your life. You really are. So don't be afraid to step out and don't be afraid to be big. Small is so much comfortable for others, but like, are you living your life for them? Or are you living your life for what you feel like that you're called to do and where you're called to be? I think that's huge.
Big time. Yeah. And that's great. That's a great transition. I think my last tip would be, try putting yourself around bigger people. Change your environment.
It's exhilarating. We have, different occasions where we're in the room with people that are visionaries and that do see big and that want to accomplish things for good and all that. And every time we leave an interaction or a meeting with them or time spent with them, I feel so exhilarated. And I'll say to you, like, we need to hang out with them more often. And then when you come back and you surround yourself with the small-minded people, that's when you can tell you're around small-minded people. You feel depleted. You feel drugged down. You feel uninspired. And when you're around those people that see bigger, it's the opposite. And obviously you want to be around people that build you up, that speak life into you, that you find that exhilaration from. And I think that's really telling. If you're ever like, am I around small-minded people? Does everyone in the room look like you? Does everyone in the room think the same as you? And does everyone in the room see bigger?
Say that.
Because if the answer is no to all of those things, you might want to find a new room.
Come on. Wow.
Yeah.
Boom. That was a mic dropping moment, ladies and gentlemen.
I'd throw this mic, but he'd kill me.
I will kill you.
But yeah, so you got anything else on that, big fella?
Just to close up what you just said, when you find yourself around, when you find yourself always having to be the bigger person, it's time to change your environment.
Yes. This has been my life lately. I constantly say, I'm so sick of taking it on the chin. But when you're a big person, you're willing to be the bigger person because you know with everything within you and within your integrity that you can't lower yourself to that level.
Time to change your environment. Get out of there.
All right. Well, because we are people of integrity and because we are not people of excuses, we're going to film another podcast right after this so that we have another one next week. You know, there's one coming at you next week. And we are getting back on that weekly grind because we missed y'all and we hope you missed us. But as always, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We are on YouTube. Wave, say hello. You can see our faces. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the podcasts. Give us a follow there, share the podcast, give a thumbs up, whatever the platform allows. That helps us out, and that helps us get more podcasts out to you. And And then when you check us out on Instagram at Jillian Rosado, at Mike Rosado, on TikTok at Jillian.Rosado, at Mike Rosado, when we're posting those videos and you're feeling it, share it to your story, share it with a friend. And I think that's all, right? All right. We will, we'll see you next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
I was going to say Saturday. Wow. We're really out of practice. All right. Bye.